Flash. I also thank you for coming tonight and making out in the heat. Hopefully it's cool enough in here and
everyone's hydrated.
Yes, get more drinks if you need them. We just want to thank our sponsors quickly. We have HBA Law. They've been our sponsor for the last couple of months, and they've been really great to us in giving the space and the drinks and letting us have a great time. And also Watch It Too is our live streaming partner, and they permit all the people that aren't here tonight to see the panel as well. So we're gonna have a great panel tonight and great panelists, and we're really looking forward to a great evening. So we actually let our panelists introduce themselves here, so we will start on the end with Chris, and I'm glad that the Chris's actually separated themselves.
So this is Chris 1, Chris 2.
So I'm Chris Bettin. I work for Major League Soccer. I run digital products and services for Major League Soccer. So everything from the website and all of our club websites to mobile applications and all of our connected devices. So that's normally what I end up doing on a daily basis, and I work with Dan.
My name is Dan Burkaw. I have a company called Double Encore. Double Encore is probably one of the first companies that started building smartphone apps, specifically iPhone, Android, and some of the newer devices. And we do a lot in sports, sports entertainment. If you are a sports fan, you've probably used a product that we built. We work with Major League Soccer and others.
My name is David Marshall. I am a creative director at ESPN. I work within customer marketing and sales. So that's outside of the realm of editorial. So, if LeBron scores 50 last night, or the Heat get destroyed by the Mavs, like that doesn't really affect my world too much. I'm sort of rooted in marketing and sales. So we work with advertisers and create digital solutions for them.
Unfortunately, that affects my world. But I'm Chris Hercik. I'm the creative director for Sports Illustrated. I'm in charge of everything print, digital.
Sorry.
Is that good?
Yeah, that's good.
Everything print, digital.
That gave you a thumbs up.
Smartphones and tablets.
And also, before we jump in, just so you guys know, this panel is interactive. So don't wait for Q&A at the end. Feel free to jump in and ask these guys questions. We've got some prepared questions for them, but it is an open house, and we do welcome your questions. So
Dive on in.
Dive on in.
So we always do this thing called the icebreaker questions. So that gets everybody loose, and since everyone's had a little drink, it's a good thing. So for you guys, since we are at Sports and Digital, what's the first sporting event you ever went to?
Chris, you want to start?
As a Pennsylvania resident, this usually doesn't go over well in my office, but it was a Phillies game. It was the Game 5 of the Phillies World Series game in '83 against the Orioles. Unfortunately, they lost, but that was my first game.
I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, so my dad's a huge sports fan and basketball fan. So I grew up with hearing about Kareem and how he started in Milwaukee. A lot of people don't know that Kareem started in Milwaukee. So my first event was a Milwaukee Bucks game as a kid back when we were actually relevant. We were relevant in the '80s. Most of you may not recall that, but we were.
I live in Denver. Denver is a great sports town. So I've been to a lot of sports events in Denver, but growing up, I didn't live in Denver. It was a little bit of a drive. And so as I was trying to think about this, first thing I remembered was WWF.
Nice. Awesome.
But then I thought about it a little bit more, and I'm like, that can't be right. So I think it must have been a Nuggets game at the old McNichols Arena, but it might have been WWF.
That's okay. It's a sport.
I think that's my first memory of a sporting event is WWF. So you're in good company.
Thanks. I grew up in Seattle, Washington, so I actually ended up going to the Kingdom and going to see a Mariners game, where I hung out just on the in the bullpen area, and I got a baseball. I was probably 4 or 5 years old, and I got a baseball from the backup catcher. And at the end of the game, I would not leave the game until he signed the ball, and he never played a minute in professional baseball. He was always the catcher out in the bullpen. So that's my first memory.
Awesome, guys. Well, so we're gonna kind of dive in, and I think sports is definitely an industry that everybody is really looking at, and you can really be a leader in the digital space. you have so many built-in fans, and it's so exciting to everybody. People really believe in their team, so maybe you guys are really seeing like the trends first and really getting to experience and use them first. So if you could maybe start off with some of those trends that you are seeing in digital marketing and sports. Chris, we'll start with you on your end.
So I think we're a relatively young league compared to a lot of the other sports leagues. We've been around 16 years now as a professional soccer league here in the United States and for Canada as well. I think we're seeing, as an organization, we've started to take that leap forward in terms of digital and really taking it seriously. So about a year ago, we started MLS Digital, which basically encompasses, and we've taken control of all of our websites and brought them in-house. We brought all of our partners and all the things that we've done digitally that we outsourced previously. We've started really to bring them in-house and start to hire people who start to think about what's the best fan experience in the digital world for an MLS fan today, and somebody who is a sports fan today, how do we convert them to be MLS fans? Because our league is so small today that there's a great opportunity for us to capitalize on the women's national team that was just this last weekend, or the men's national team, or somebody else's just, there's a lot of, there's definitely a lot of desire, and American fans really love watching the World Cup. And how do we bring the excitement of the World Cup to the fans today and have them realize that MLS is just as exciting as the World Cup? So.
You can just keep on going down the line. Yeah, you guys can go down the line in order. Everyone wants to hear from all of you. So.
I'll just say apps. I mean, clearly apps are a trend. I think what it's meant is that a lot of organizations that haven't had to be technology companies are having to think like technology companies, and that's different, and it takes time. So that's what I notice.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I think is maybe not just a trend over the last couple of years, but maybe over the last 5 or 10 or 15 years is just these multi-platforms, right? There's a lot of different places to get your information, right? It used to be one-way traffic, at one time, right? It was television, and there was of course just that the print outlet, but now there's digital, and now there's mobile, and not only is there digital, but there's Facebook, and there's Twitter, and there's blogs, and there's this, and there's that, and there's mobile, and there's all these devices, and there's tablets, and it's trying to find a way to break through some of this clutter and make your voice consistent across all of these mediums. And ESPN happens to touch on all 5 or 6 or whatever of those mediums. So that's a tough thing. It's a trend I think everybody is dealing with, but I think ESPN has a probably extra large task because we do have major players in each one of those platforms.
And for SI, I mean, our major business is print. I mean, we still hit about 3 million people every week, and that's one thing to keep in mind. And we have such a great wealth between the website and all of our assets. So for us, the technology boom has really been a blessing because we've been able to bring all these weekly editions to life with video, with additional photos. We have a lot of resources we were never able to use before, and all these tablets and smartphones have really been able to capitalize on that wealth of data that we have. And I mean, a year ago, since last June, we were a magazine and we had a website. 1 year later, we have over 54 issues on the iPad already, just for the weekly magazine. We're on 5 different tablets, smartphones, and numerous apps. And it's just in 1 year. That's only in 1 year's time. And the nice thing is having these resources, we're able to produce all these products, and that's really the key.
I think, I guess I can kind of expand on that. I think we, as MLS Digital, has been around about 18 months now, and we have seen an increase in terms of, we looked at the landscape, MLS looked at the landscape, and we said, there is not a website out there today that covers MLS or a print magazine that covers MLS the way it should be covered. All the other sports leagues, you look at the NFL, you look at MLB, fans are writing blogs. There are plenty of writers at newspapers or in traditional media that are covering their sports, and nobody's covering MLS. So we've gone out and hired beat writers and writers in every single market. We now have 75 people who write for our website. And we looked at kind of at a landscape. We produce roughly 3 to 4 times as much content around MLS as opposed to ESPN, which is the next largest, or if you look at Fox Soccer, or if you look at Goal.com, we produce a lot more content than all of these other players, and it really has been a key for us. And we've, traffic for us, the numbers are through the roof. Whether it's mobile, whether it's web, whether it's connected devices, it really makes a difference that content is king, and we have to create exclusive content because nobody else is creating it today.
Cool. So where do you guys see the innovation coming from? Is it the marketing department where it's coming from, or are you guys responding to the fans because they're the ones out there using all these new technologies? From what you guys are seeing, where is that innovation being driven from?
I think it comes from a lot of different areas, but from our end, it still comes from the edit side. Everything starts with the core product, the weekly issue, but there's advertisers coming to us with interesting ideas and apps and those sorts of things, but it still starts with the brand itself. It still starts with the core product for us.
Well, I mean, we've got a lot of great, smart, knowledgeable people inside the walls of ESPN, and we come up with, we think, some pretty cool ideas. People may think otherwise, but I think we come up with some pretty cool stuff. But and while we do listen to our fans, I don't know that our fans are driving force behind some of the technology and some of the ideas that we come up with. We certainly, I think that the big motto at ESPN is we're serving our fans. I'm going to quote this incorrectly. I hope my boss doesn't see this online somewhere.
We
but
are live
it's,
streaming.
It is
Recorded forever.
It's on our website right now. I'm just telling you right now.
it's somewhere along the lines of we want to serve the fan at wherever the fan is, whatever they're doing, right? If they're at home, we want to serve them. If they're in their car, we want to serve them. If they're on their on their bike, we want to serve them. Listen to your earbuds to ESPN Radio. If you're on wherever, that's our goal. So I don't necessarily know that that the fans are pushing our sort of the innovation. But one thing that I would say is sort of a broad sense around innovation, and where I find a lot of really cool innovative stuff is small boutique shops. We're really big, and it's a big company, right? So we don't turn on a dime like a small shop. We're not as flexible as a small shop. If the navigation, we decide we want to redo the navigation on ESPN.com, that's going to take some time. You're not going to do that. You're not going to do that overnight. But a small shop.
You're going to get a lot of calls right now.
They're getting text messages as we speak from Digital Flash.
But I think the small shops. I mean, they're flexible. They've got they've got a there's a lot of smart people that work at small places. I started at a really small shop with 5 or 6 people, and we did some pretty kick-ass stuff. If I can say that.
Yes,
Yes, you can.
Of course you can.
It's online. You can do it.
You're allowed
It's not on television.
There is no rating system at Digital Flash.
So I find a lot of innovation from just those small boutique shops who are just pushing the envelope and pushing and turning out some killer stuff.
So I'll be the small shop.
A nice segue, Dan.
Thank you very much. I'll get you back later. I kind of think we serve two masters. So on the one hand, we've got clients like Major League Soccer. On the other hand, we have companies like Apple. We've got a great relationship with sort of both of these masters, and Apple has a certain set of priorities and agenda, and they have their technology roadmap, and sort of soccer wants to do things that create more fans, create the best exclusive content, and so I feel like sometimes we do end up being the innovator, pushing the innovation, whether we kind of like to or not, and we do like to, but it's because it's sort of that bringing together of the technology partner, the Apple or the Google, and then the league who may not have, they're not a technology company perhaps. So I don't know. I feel like we get to be the man in the middle, and sometimes that's necessary.
We have a great relationship, I think, for several reasons. I think the first is really that Dan's really open with his new ideas or what he's seeing from the industry, and whether that's at Apple as a new technology or with his other partners. And I think for us, I look at, we have 18 different teams right now in 17 different cities. So we have eyes and ears in every single city, and there is a great new technology startup company that is coming and talking to one of our teams. And at some point, that team is going to reach out to me and say, hey, here's a great technology company that we're interested in using, and pushing that to me, and so I can start to evaluate that. So those technology companies are reaching out because they see MLS as being an innovative company. Our target demo, 18 to 34-year-old males. typically, right? And so those are their technology, you know, that's your typical iPhone user, that's your typical, you know, digital person, and so that's our audience. And pairing the two together is something we think, you know, about a lot. And how do I serve and create something that is a unique experience that maybe some of those other larger leagues or larger organizations can't create? We try to be as entrepreneurial as possible. And so it is us reaching out. We're working with a brand new startup company from Scott McNeely. And great, he's the, I don't know if everybody knows, but he's the former CEO of Sun Microsystems. And so working with companies like that, which is really cool for us, and we're willing to do it as a sports league because we think if we can get behind and work with great companies, it's going to promote our sports league and drive fan adoption. So that's something we think about a lot, and how we interact with those companies, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Twitter. Those are the relationships that we need because that's our target demo. Even the people who work at those companies are our target demo.
I see a question.
Yeah,
Mr.
What are you doing about reaching out to the young kids and the families? You know, soccer is the hottest thing, you know, for young kids today, both boys, you know, and girls. You know, and there's your future. I mean, I've heard stories, friends of mine, they're young kids, 10, 11 years old, you know, were in soccer leagues, sitting and watching the Women's World Cup, transfixed 2 days, never left the television set. You know, it seems to me you need some sort of outreach there.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we are targeting as kind of priorities for this next couple of years. We're looking at the idea behind creating games and you know, exciting things for kids, or that maybe it's 8 to 14-year-old kid to do and engage with MLS. Now, there are plenty of other programs that are offline and non-digital, but we're thinking about it from a digital perspective and thinking about, well, how do I create something that's an interactive game on Facebook? So I've got several companies talking to me about creating a Facebook game and interacting with them. We're thinking about how do we tap in and actually provide interesting things as updates on, you know, kind of, we're talking with, you know, a Nintendo idea, right? So with companies like that, or with, you know, Xbox, a great partner of ours. And how do we create fun things for kids in that younger demo to attach themselves with Major League Soccer? Because kids today, typically their dads, their moms, think about bringing their kids to a football game or a baseball game. We want those kids to say, I want to go to the MLS game. And so there's an attachment that comes with our relationship with somebody like an EA, to somebody with like a, you know, like a Microsoft and an Xbox, where we have to work with our partners to make sure that we're putting MLS in the right perspective with those types of companies. And so it's definitely a priority for us because that is, as you said, it is the next generation of fans that are going to come and become MLS fans. And I thought it was funny, we were talking earlier, and David is a big soccer fan, and we were saying 4 years ago, 5 years ago, a lot of people wouldn't be soccer fans who are our age. And so it's definitely changing and evolving, and you start to see people who grew up and played in high school and progress, and now they start to track the World Cup. And I think it is technology that brings that forward, because everybody loves seeing the great graphics on ESPN. Like they want to see, you know, Landon Donovan running down the field, and you can see a little line with him, how he gets down the field, where the pass goes, and people really attach themselves with understanding how the play developed in soccer, and technology plays a big role in that.
Question right here.
So speaking of going to the game and leveraging technology, how are you leveraging location-based services either for pushing your content or your advertisers' content, things like Facebook Places, Foursquare? Maybe you can expand on that.
So we have a real challenge, and I think this is not just us, and I think this is most sports leagues and sports teams, because it's somewhat regionalized, and our idea of a local sports app or that idea of being in stadium really needs to tie in with technology at the stadium or with that team and locally. So we have right now we're developing things around the MLS Pubs program, which is basically a network of pubs that have pledged to put the game on. They have, you know, different kinds of things that go on there. But so there are games, places you can go watch games. And so the idea of a check-in at that place and rewarding that person and rewarding the pub for being a part of that program is really key for us. But at the local level, the key for us, and we've talked about this recently, is that at each stadium they have different technology, they have different partners, and that becomes a real challenge. Your ticket vendor, your stadium vendor, your stadium, food services, your local transportation, all of those things, and the APIs, or from a technology point, the API or the people you have to interact with are typically different in every single location. And that's where Dan's job becomes really challenging, to say, I have to go create an app that is customized for each of these clubs. And for us, it becomes really expensive. And so really the question for us is, how can we tackle the entire audience with some real basic baseline things, and then it becomes, for those organizations, like, I don't know if anybody's familiar with Kansas City, so Livestrong Park in Kansas City, which opened up in June, is a big investment, and they're sponsored by Google and by Cisco. And they're doing wireless, and the whole idea there is really interesting. So I would encourage you to go look at that online. I can obviously talk to it, but it's going to be a great place to go watch a game. But if you're a technology person, it is going to be an amazing experience. They push video to your iPhone. You can check in with the member program. You get reward points. That's a big part of all of this, is that that CRM, the customer relationship management piece, is a real big piece of that local aspect.
So Chris, what about you guys? You see some challenges, because you're talking about challenges,
Yep.
and that was actually
One of the questions.
one of the questions. So what are some of the challenges? And David, you can all pipe in, but
Well, we produce regional content, regional covers for certain areas. And so with our digital properties, we're looking into trying to figure out how to do that. So we already produce certain covers for different parts of the country. The problem that we face with that is you also have to generate that much more content. And of course, with that much more content and the fluidity of it means more resources, and it's a reality. But the technology is amazing, and we looked into taking the tablets to games, where you can find out who else is at the game. You can actually interact with the games, where you can guess what the next pitch is if you're at a baseball game. You can trivia questions throughout the game. It's the shortage of ideas. There is none, but the making them happen is. But the best part about it is it's fun. I mean, all these new ideas that are out there, and all these new partnerships that you talked about, and we worked with the Hit Post to create Snapshot last year, and so you can get local news from the smallest teams in your area. But it's there's just so much going on right now, and it's a great new idea. We just have to figure out how to make it work.
what about in some of the other areas, challenges, or just besides location based?
Well, you're always, once you get on one new device, there's another new device. And it's not even like we thought in the beginning that, okay, you have to design something for 4.3 and then something for 16.9. The problem is then all the devices don't work. There's different little nuances about each device that you can't figure out until you do it, and then you have to figure out how to fix it. And so there's, with every new device and every new application, there's always
Barrier to entry.
Yeah.
You
How about
guys?
you, David?
Yeah, well, one of the challenges that we have, and it's I don't work within editorial. I'm on the sales and marketing side. One of the challenges that we have is creating relevant and custom content for our advertisers that are not officials of certain leagues, right? So if you're GM, you're an official of the NFL. If you're T-Mobile, you're an official of the NBA. But what about the other advertisers who want to spend around the NBA, who want to spend around the NFL? And it's because your rights are limited, right? If you're not an official, you can't use marks of the league, you can't use marks of the team, you can't use player photos because of implied endorsement and all of those types of things. So one of the big challenges, and it's not really technology related, it's just around coming up with smart, interesting, compelling ideas for our advertisers around those sports, right? If it's Nissan and they want to activate around college football, and they're not official, but we got to find a way to create some custom content, create some fun content, on the digital platform, and have that sort of display smartly and interestingly, on the mobile device, and so on and so forth. I mean, within sales and marketing, like that's a big challenge for us, and it's something that we talk about every single day. When the advertiser comes in the door, the first question is, are they an official? and most of the time it's no, right? There's only X amount of officials in each league, and they're not an official. All right, put your thinking caps on, because we got to come up with a good idea.
Dan, I think you're solving problems, but
So
you might see some.
one quick thing on that. He mentioned rights. I mean, we don't make these rights deals. We don't create these rights deals, but we do have to sort of live with them. And a lot of these were created before there was an iPhone, before there was an iPad, before there were a lot of these devices. And so, as we talked earlier about, where does the innovation get driven from? The challenge for us is that sometimes we want to innovate more than we can because we're sort of constrained by these rights deals that sort of we just have to live with.
Well, and for us, I mean, the same way. I mean, every league, sharing, the standard practice with everything. We can't share anything unless it's our own. We're shooting a limited amount of games, but we can't shoot, or share something that's not ours, and it's a real life.
I think I saw a question in that neck of the woods over there.
Yeah, I was referring to the response that he gave to the guy over here. I have an 11-year-old son who's completely into all kinds of sports, but can't get him into soccer at all. And I became a soccer fan. We just had this conversation outside. Just a couple years ago, I watched the Olympics between Japan and the United States, and it was so interesting because I remember saying, like, wow, these guys are so athletic. Like, what you have to do to kind of play the sport is amazing. And I wanted him to play because he's athletic and he plays all kinds of sports. But I also feel like, we live in the suburbs, so they do have soccer leagues, but he's more inclined to want to play baseball. And, he reads Sports Illustrated for kids, and he plays football, but he won't touch soccer. He doesn't want to play it, and I feel like it's also the accessibility to go into the games. I think they have, like, an arena in Jersey or something, but, it's less promoted. Like, we can get baseball tickets, we can get football tickets, we can get basketball tickets, but, we don't hear a lot, in our neighborhood or in the sports circles that we're running in about soccer and why, kids should take it seriously or want to play it.
Yeah, it's kind of funny you say that because I think about soccer in general and MLS. I think for the ticket price is so much cheaper than any of the other sports. I look at my season tickets. I'm from Seattle and I still have season tickets in Seattle because I'm a big fan. And my ticket price, I had season tickets to the Seahawks games as well. I sat in the third row from the very top at my Seahawks football game tickets, and my price per ticket was almost twice as much as it was for the season of 8 games plus 2 preseason games, so 10 games for my 16 plus, it was about 19 game soccer season, was almost twice as much as what I was getting and was paying for. So the accessibility is there. I think we do have a challenge with our sports and TV networks
I
today.
mean accessibility and cost.
Yeah.
Accessibility and promotion.
Yeah, no, and so this,
Hear
right?
about it.
So for us, the promotion that you normally see is on NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox, right? Those are your public television, that it's on today. Right now, our national team games are on ESPN. They're on Fox Soccer, which you've got to typically pay for as an additional fee. They might be on Galavision in Spanish or Telefutura in Spanish. They're also on, a couple of other regional channels in each market. And so we see digital as being the opportunity for us to get our product out there. I don't know how many of you are familiar with, but YouTube did a deal for Copa America, which is the South America tournament similar to the Gold Cup. So if anybody watched US Play Mexico on ESPN, I believe it was on, a couple months ago, then it's the same idea. It's the same kind of tournament, but in South America. YouTube did a deal and they streamed it to North America completely free for your audience. Now that's a great idea from my view, but what's my regional television network who's paying, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to televise that game, and they have audience dollars that are associated with that? That's a real challenge for us. And I think it'll be interesting to see how the industry moves in the future, because in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, does the NFL, does the NBA, does the NHL, how do they see that evolving? I think we could be that league that changes that. I don't know how, I'm not part of that decision making. There are owners and executives that are part of that. But I'm definitely of the mindset that digital, I have cable TV today, but a lot of people don't. They're starting to disconnect, and I think in order for us to grow our audience, we need to be disconnected or at least put our content so it's accessible for somebody who has chosen not to subscribe to some of those networks.
I have 2 questions. Is it okay I ask?
Start with the first one.
Okay, my first question is to you. You mentioned apps. How are you able to stay competitive and innovative when someone can download an app from MLB, NFL, NBA? How are you able to get people to want to download the SI app?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we can't compete with like an MLB that can show like every single game of every, of the season. But what we do is you got to go back to who we are and what we do best. I mean, Sports Illustrated is about the writing, about the journalism. There's nothing like it out there. There's our photographers are the best, and so that's where we have to, our apps are centered around that. Big Ticket, for example, which is out there, not streams, but live from events. You get photos up to the minute, from live major events from our photographers. And our photographers, are in the best positions. They have they've been doing this for 20 years. So you have to go back to what is it that differentiates you from your competition out there, and we know what other people are doing, but we like to focus on what we do best. And when we go down the road with apps, it's what can we do, what can we give that somebody else. We know you can get scores in 5 different places, but how do we do them, and how do we do them a little bit different? Maybe it's Peter King, who has about 1 million followers on Twitter. He's when it comes to football, Peter King is known everywhere. He's So how do we capitalize on that? And that's what we pull into different apps in different ways, into our tablet editions and those sorts of things. So you have to know what you do best before you can kind of figure out how to separate you from everybody else.
Okay. And the second question is for you. So ESPN just recently had the Wimbledon big deal. How are you going to handle that from a sales and marketing perspective for next year and beyond?
Yeah, I mean, there's I can't speak for the entire company. Of course, we get there's a lot of people. But yeah, I mean, there's a buzz around the office, right? I mean, we have these big, huge rights, and there may be separate groups that are formed, right, to help develop content and create content and support this huge platform. The same way that if we would have gotten the NCAA tournament, right, and the March Madness, that would have created another sort of effect similar to that, where you've got another marketing and sales group, and these guys are just dedicated to this property. So I mean, to be honest, like I don't have the ins and outs of that because I don't work in that side of the business, but I do know that there's a buzz, and that there is there's going to be some things probably that need to be reworked in order to support that. The same way we things sort of exploded in marketing and sales with the addition of the BCS, with the Orange Bowl and the Sugar Bowl and the Rose Bowl and the other 2 bowls. I mean, that's some heavy duty content and some heavy duty games and fans to support and people to audience to feed, and so there's a lot of resources being dedicated towards that. It's probably going to be the same way.
Noah and Noah.
David, ESPN. Wonder if you could speak to how you price or monetize the digital experiences for your advertisers. Is it CPM based, or are you trying to sell sponsorships exclusively? And do you work with producers to figure out what types of units to include, whether they're banners or interstitials, or how you're getting that advertiser message into the apps? Or
Yeah, that's a pretty complex question. I mean, no, and I'm going to answer it as best as I can. I mean, we do a lot of different things, and all of those are pretty close. I mean, we do a lot of CPM, based, sales, and we do a lot of sponsorship, sort of, sponsoring this show or that show, or PTI or fantasy football, or different platforms that we have. One thing that we have noticed is, at least in marketing and sales, is that there's a trend with advertisers. Advertisers, for a while, we had been building lots of custom microsites and custom experiences and sweepstakes and contests and lots of fun stuff, because I don't work with an edit, of course. So we're just creating content and doing things like that. But for a while we were doing that. Now advertisers want to be tied to edit. They want to be tied to editorial, right? They want to be seen on the scoreboard page, right? When you go and look for NFL scores on Sunday, they want to be seen on the homepage, right? On the first opening day for MLB, right? They want to be seen in those places. So that's affected, I believe. I mean, I'm not in sales, but that has affected the way that I think some things are being priced, because a lot of advertisers, sort of a trend for us is that they don't want just ancillary stuff. They want to be tied to edit. They want to be tied to programs, to SportsCenter, to some of the big platforms that we have. And that's
With the new app coming out, are you able to get a sponsor in there just based on the ESPN name and without any sort of track record of views or downloads?
you mean the Watch ESPN app?
Any new product, digital product, is it enough to say, we're gonna promote it and your brand will be featured as part of the content?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are sponsorship opportunities for the apps. I think last count, I think ESPN has 26 apps in the App Store, and that's another discussion for another day. what we're going to do with all those apps, but there are lots of opportunities for advertisers to be tied to those apps, and we are the sales team, not marketing, but the sales folks are proactively trying to attach advertisers to those, and it's not as easy as you would think. I think a lot of people think, hey, it's ESPN. Anyone will spend, and to be attached to it, it gets a lot more complex. And one of the things one of the, I don't want to say problems, it's probably more of a challenge that we have is that we do have a lot of different platforms. We have digital. We have a couple of different networks. We have a magazine. We do have 26 apps. We've got a mobile site. So I mean, it's trying to find a way to appeal to advertisers and have them spend across these platforms, right? Not just say, I want to throw all my money in a sports center. That's all I want to do is sports center. Well, that's not all we want you to do. We want you to do some sports center, but we want you to do some fantasy football on .com. We want you to do some whatever on mobile. We want you to sort of do a little bit of everything and trying to sort of broaden the appeals for our advertisers, because a lot of times a lot of the media buying agencies they want TV and they want print. That's what I'm here to buy. Like, that's it. And it's like, well, I know you want TV and print, but check out .com and look at this and look at that, and if it's a specific demo, if you have objectives, like there's a lot of different ways to reach those objectives. It's not always through SportsCenter.
I think you're answering like every question we just had. that one question. I saw no, I had one question. The other no.
I was wondering how you guys are integrating like user-generated content. Because I know you were saying that you can't be everywhere users are. And then in terms of in terms of soccer, you guys aren't everywhere. So I'm just wondering how are you factoring in like user-generated content as an option, and how users can kind of add to that content, because content is kind of key.
I mean, for us, it's not quite that simple. I mean, we have a lot of writers, we have a lot of staff, but there's a lot of issues that come along with that, and there's a reputation and a level of journalism that comes with it. So it's a balancing act. But what we reach out for is all the social media. It's not the newest thing, but it's the newest thing in all of our apps. The interaction. The one thing that is, magazines now really come to life with these products. And before, you couldn't really interact with the writer or the author. Now, we kind of step back. Peter King gets on there with his Twitter feed. You can ask him right on the page, something about that specific article, and he can respond, and you can have a discussion and a dialogue about it. And we're trying to include more of that. So it's not necessarily user-generated content, but it's user interactivity, and it's audience participation kind of thing. And it's a challenge to try to make all that work and integrate all of that, but we're doing it across all the digital editions, but it's been one of the best things and the newest things for us.
Yeah, social media is a huge thing for us on that side. We take a look at the sports landscape, and today we have comments on all of our articles, and we have social plugins on every website, and we have Twitter inside all of our apps. We have all those kinds of things. That's how we're bringing content. We look at it as kind of an evolution at this point. So for a long time you had editorial creating content, and it was really one way. So you're creating a television show, you're creating a magazine, and it's, hey, we wrote this and we put it out there, and people can kind of do whatever they want with it, but that's what we say. then now we're in this kind of phase in the world of all right, we're starting a conversation is the way we like to look at things. So today we write an article about, let's say it's a great goal that was scored or a match recap, and then people can comment on that. We're taking it to the next step and starting to say, well, on social media, we really need to create specific content for social media. So we're customizing the things that we post. We're not just posting the same story, the same link back to our website. We're thinking about how do we start to engage our fans with things like you write the caption to this photo, or you say this or that. Who's the best player this week? And kind of open-ended questions or ways to interact with fans. Today it's not about, for us at least, we're not there yet, I think, in terms of that fan base. There's a lot of user-generated content out there, but we're starting to figure out how do we use technology to start to capture that. So Kansas City Stadium is another is a great example of that, where if you're shooting a video, you can take a picture with your phone and you can upload it to their site inside of their stadium, and you can share it with other fans. That's kind of the idea. Or share a video with their fans you just shot in stadium with other fans. That kind of idea, I think, is really interesting. I think the challenge is going to be, how do you make a curated feed of that? So today we look at ourselves as curating the world of soccer for fans. So what we say means a lot. So we have, we create an article that links out to lots of other content that may be user generated, but that's kind of the extent of it. And we think of ourselves as curating soccer world. So we can tell you, hey, you should read this, you should check out this from a fan, as a fan. And I think that's really important.
Hey Dan, we've got a question for you.
Yeah.
So what are your clients asking you for? Is it more apps that are content driven, far more interactive, sort of choose your own adventure? What are you being asked to do in terms of apps?
Besides MLS, because
What are your ears, Chris?
Some of the things that have already come up. So the question about ads, right? How can we have more rich media for advertisers? How can they be more integrated into the experience instead of just banners at the bottom or something? How can they be really kind of part of this kind of silo of a product, which is these applications? So I'd say that's a big one that I'm seeing a lot of. The other thing is, of course, they all want to know how to monetize their content. So it's how do I let users authenticate against my subscription product? How do I let users get access to premium content? How does that all work? And there's a lot of mechanics to that, and it can be challenging from a technology perspective. And then the other thing, of course, is devices, right? There's okay, now we've got the iPad 2, we've got other things from other manufacturers, and I think one of the challenges is that you want to support all this current technology and all this future technology, but you have to do it in a way where you don't necessarily leave behind people that just bought the product that was on the shelf 6 months ago. And 6 months ago in technology is not a very long time, but that product's still useful. But since it's all software driven these days, in 6 months the software can be obsolete and or very hard for us to support. And we're small, we have limited resources, we can only do so much and target so many platforms. So that's a challenge. These guys came to us and said, can you do Android? Well, sure.
So we launched our first app, right? We launched our first app in October.
Honest answer.
And Dan had a choice, right? Dan had a choice to say, yes, I can do it, or no, I can't, and we're going to go someplace else. And for our opinion was, we want the same experience or a similar experience for our fans from a UI, feature perspective. Because guess what? All those people who own Androids, they have seen the reviews for our MLS app, Matchday app, and they want that. So he had a real challenge between saying, yes, I can do it, or no, I can't, and he's going to have to support my decision either way, because he's going to have to deal with my other developer saying, hey, I've got an Android and I can do these 5 things, and that developer telling me all these 5 new things that I can do. I'm like, damn, 5 things I got to add to the iPhone app.
So the problem is, but if we played this out for a number of years, suddenly I have people that have specialties in all sorts of things, and is that really what we want to be? And that's what I think these guys have to start thinking about is, do we really have to support every single device? There's some devices out there that have less than a percentage of market share in their category that some of these guys are supporting, and that's kind of nuts.
Thank you.
Carlos.
I
think that it's a huge fallacy to think that the more channel distribution of the touch point you have with your clients will bring you more advertisers. I think advertisers really care about how many eyeballs they get at any given point. So if you have one device giving 100 million viewers, that's all what they care. So most companies are spending a lot of money to be everywhere, and at the end they don't do anything right. One question that I have for you basically is, if you know who are the top 5 sites in the US that provides the more unique visitors, and second, who is the most watched athlete on Facebook or Twitter that is being followed in the US, if you know who they are.
So the top sites?
The top 5 sites that provide the most number of unique visitors in the US.
Google, YouTube.
Sites
Facebook.
So, and that's my point, that most people focus on getting crazy about building all these things, but they don't foresee what the market is demanding.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the MLS is doing a wonderful job. They have been consistently delivering to the user base. They care about the user. They understand the user. ESPN is doing great to a certain extent. They are trying now to. I'm talking more on the international side right now in the US, because the growth is coming mostly from the international side and also the Hispanic, US Hispanic.
So you want to know who are the best, who are the top teams to follow on Facebook or Twitter?
Well, that's what the MLS is doing very well in terms of getting in touch with their core audience, and I think all the other networks are not. Certainly, you are the one you are
So
representing.
what are you guys
They're
doing in
representing
social media, I
the
guess?
media companies.
How are you guys engaging with your top celebs in social media?
Well, I mean,
MLS is doing it well,
So what was
apparently.
your, for example, you for Sport Illustrated, how much would you have your circulation 5 years ago in print?
Actually, our circulation hasn't gone down at all. Even with the change in everything in the market, even with all these new devices, we're still at 3.5 or 3.1 million people every week. So then you add on all these different devices, and in the beginning, everybody was worried that it was going to cannibalize something else. But what we look at is we're reaching all these different demographics in different areas and different users and different touch points. It's not that if you gain an iPad reader, you're going to lose a print subscriber. Maybe in the future, but not currently. And what we're doing is we're not cutting corners on content. It's the same great content, but we're reaching the audience of SI in the grand scheme of things is so much larger than it was a year ago. And we haven't lost circulation. We haven't lost advertising. If anything else, we've grown exponentially. And so in the beginning, that was the major concern was if you take something from here, you're going to take it from over here. If you produce this, and it's not the case.
As your audience mature in terms of size, how will you compete with ESPN at a big international component to even MLS soccer? Your market is just this big. You can't grow the market anymore. So how do you see your company 5 years from now competing with these two other companies?
Well, my company is very different from theirs, and it's been around for 55 years. So I would imagine, like everything grows. I mean, we evolve. I mean, 1 year ago we didn't have an iPad edition. We're on 7 different tablets right now. So how do I say where we're going to be next year? I honestly don't know. But all I know is if you keep to your core, if you keep to what you do best, and you just keep evolving and you make smart business decisions. I mean, we have licensed content in India. We have licensed content in China. We have licensed content in other countries. So we have an international component, not nearly like everybody else, but you find the markets that you need to evolve and move into, and you do them smartly. I mean, it's like I said, we're a completely different product.
Derek?
This is a question for Chris. Like, okay, well, obviously soccer abroad is insanely huge. So, I'm wondering, is there ever like an issue with people watching soccer games from abroad versus MLS soccer games? And do you guys ever mimic any types of marketing techniques from like abroad, like from like FC Barcelona?
Yeah, so I am a big Barcelona fan. It's funny you make that. So I think there's a couple things. So I think your first question is kind of around, I don't know.
Just like, is there a competition between like MLS soccer? And
So we first, I think the first answer is we want everybody to first be soccer fans.
Yeah.
Right? So I encourage you all to become a U.S. national team fan or another national team fan, and then you may, because that's, a lot of people get involved because of the World Cup, right? Because all of those games are on ESPN, and they're really accessible to everybody. There's a lot of excitement. Those 30 days are some of the best 30 days of a lot of people's lives outside of the United States, and everybody here in the United States can recognize that and kind of jump along. So I think that's a great experience. I think we have a challenge at times to say that the level of soccer here is Barcelona soccer. And the challenge, that's a real challenge for us. But the reality is there's really competitive soccer being played in New Jersey, in Harrison, New Jersey, where the Red Bulls play. You have Thierry Henry, who used to play for Barcelona. You have Rafa Marquez, who used to play for FC Barcelona. Maybe they're a couple years older than they played over there, but they're still great players. And I think there's exciting soccer to be seen here in the United States. I think the challenge for us is a lot of today's American athletes are playing soccer, or playing football, they're playing baseball, they're playing basketball, right? So those, as you said before, the kids who see the big dollars, right? So they're saying, I can make Kobe Bryant money, I can be those, the superstar athletes and playing other sports. I think a lot of people just don't recognize in the United States the amount of money that somebody like Lionel Messi gets paid. The amount of money that Cristiano Ronaldo gets paid is a lot of money, but they're competing at the world stage. And that's a different market. I think so. I'm of the opinion I want everybody to be a soccer fan. I'm a Liverpool fan. I'm a Barcelona fan, and I'm a Seattle Sounders fan. Like I have my 3 teams. A lot of people, they may never have a team. They may only have one team. So that's different. I think on the second side of learning about digital overseas, I think this is actually something I'd love to hear from you guys. But the overseas market. Digitally, they're not evolved as much, right? So
we
the
gotta
smartphone
give these
market.
guys like a time to say it quickly because this is gonna be last comments from everybody.
Talk a little bit about smartphones overseas. I think is.
So one quick anecdote. Apple did earnings this week, and something like 60% of new iPhone sales in the last quarter were international sales. So 60%, so more than half. And so what we're seeing is a lot of people are asking us to localize, to really have customized content for other markets, and a lot of that is Asia, a lot of that is Europe, and so all I know is that we have to do something to address these markets, or do nothing. And if we do nothing,
overseas markets, guys. Is that something you want to chat on, or?
Yeah. Well. I mean, I don't work in international. We have a massive international group, but I do know that expanding in the international markets is a priority, is a huge priority at ESPN. I mean, we already have. Exclusive sports centers which take place in Mexico, and Argentina has a version, and England has a version, and India has a version. I mean, and that's kind of I mean, you can see the effect, and and Australia has one. It's a huge priority for the company, and it's only going to keep going on.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And just having these digital apps available, we're already seeing the downloads from other countries and stuff like that, and without us really doing anything, it's a push, just like everybody else. But just having this technology available is making it that much more accessible.
Unfortunately, guys, this is time. But I feel like we only touched the surface, so these guys are going to be around for a little bit, and you can come up and chat with them and ask them a couple questions that you didn't get to ask during the panel.
And thank you guys for being an awesome panel. You guys are doing such a see you guys in September. We are taking events off in August, but we definitely are always around. And coming back in September, we got a very special guest who will be speaking in Digital Flashland, and we'll announce that on our website in the coming weeks. But yeah, we really enjoy having you, so braving the heat. The bar is open. Please go to it. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.